Hello class, George here, and in the last video we saw that I had a little bit of an error when I was trying to deal with messages from Gradle and specifically getting past that R file issue. While we did successfully get through that, what we do have right now is a problem most of you may run into, or if some of you happen to have multiple versions of the JDK or have installed old versions of Android Studio such as myself, you could have it linking to the wrong version of the JDK. This is actually very easy to fix. Go to File, Project Structure. Under Project Structure, right here at SDK Location, right on the top, you can see my JDK location is pointing to the wrong version of JDK. If I click down here and it takes me into my folder, you'll notice I actually have several different versions of the JDK. So let's just go ahead and pick JDK 1.8.0_101 because that looks like it is, well, actually this one looks like it's the latest, isn't it? Go ahead and just make sure, hit OK, hit OK. Let's go ahead and clear out this list, go to Build. Now, it looks like things aren't working properly, but Android Studio is actually busy. If you take a look down here, you can see that two processes are running. We click on this, we can see that it is refreshing my app. Great, there we are. We're all finished, and there's no errors in our event log, so that's great. This video, what we're going to do is we're going to use the emulator. We're going to set up an emulator and then use it to view our app. In the following video, we'll talk about deploying this on an actual device. If you are one of my students who is actually in my course at Rowan University, you need to understand that the emulator will not cut it. You also need a device. Now, I'm using a version of the Samsung phone, the S5. I'm also using a Nexus tablet. If you are going to be using a device, I recommend you don't use the device you probably got from free from either your cable provider or maybe you got it for free in some other circumstance. I've had students in the past bring me horrible custom versions of Android, and in many cases they're unable to connect to them and they just completely don't work. So do a little bit of research. Go online, make sure other people have been able to develop and connect with them. See if it's an approved device. This will save you a ton of frustration. In addition, not everything can be done in the emulator. A lot can be, and it's gotten very good in the past few years, but you still want a real device. And it's important for us to be working with different devices because each device is different, unique, has different usually resolutions and screen sizes. And you need to take all those things into consideration when you are building your apps because they will show up differently for everyone. In the next video, we'll get into actually launching this on two different devices, and I'll talk a little bit more about it at that time. But for right now, let's just set up an emulator and see this thing running. So up here, what we can do is actually press this Run app. Shift F10 is the hotkey. If this is the first time you've ever done this, you're going to get this pop-up window asking you to select a deployment target. Right here, it's saying that no USB devices or running emulators have been detected, meaning if my phone or my tablet was plugged in and in developer mode and I had the proper USB drivers installed, we would be seeing this as a potential device. And right now I don't have any emulators up and running. You can leave the emulator up and running even though you're actively coding and doing different things, and then what will happen is you'll end up deploying it to the emulator at another time. I do recommend doing that because the emulator still, while very quick now, is still slow enough to where if you keep having to close it and open it back up again, it's just kind of a pain in the rear. Another important thing to understand here is that it's saying that we're missing the system image for this particular emulator. Let's go ahead and click Create New Emulator. Here it gives you a wonderful list of different devices that have already been characterized for you. What you do need to understand is that these are not the only options for you. We'll probably talk more about emulators in the future in another video, but we can create our own hardware profile and specify any information we want to. So if you have a unique device you're using to develop for, you can create your own hardware profile. Let's hit cancel. We're not going to dive into that just yet. Pick a device, doesn't really matter what. I would recommend picking one of the Nexus devices, specifically one that's later on, such as the 6 or the 6P. If you want to, you can use just about anything else, but I would stay away from these incredibly low resolution devices down here. You'll also notice that we can develop for TV, Wear, or tablet, but this course is only going to be focusing at the moment on the phone and the tablet versions. So pick something that's interesting to you. I'm going to go with a phone, and I'm going to go with the Nexus 6. Hit Next. Now in this case, it's warning us about what we're going to need to make this work. So here are the different versions of Android that we can be using for this. Of course, the latest ones put to the top and then earlier ones done at the bottom. A word of caution about this. These images are quite large. I don't recommend downloading every single version for every single API level. Target a few different versions and work with that, because I specifically know I don't have the room or space to work with these. For now, though, I think we're just going to go with Marshmallow, and I'll do the 64-bit. It's going to ask you to do a license agreement, except once you've read all this information, like a good little developer, just keep hitting next. This is going to take a little bit of time, so walk away, get something to eat, do some jumping jacks, whatever you want to. All right, it took about 5 minutes on my computer to download and unzip that. Might take longer or shorter on yours. Hit finish. Now it's going to show us which ones we can use. Otherwise, we need to download the other versions if that's what you're after. We're going to go with this one at the moment. Hit next. This one's telling me to turn off Hyper-V. I've actually already done this step, and we'll talk about this later on, but it does require my system to reboot, so we're going to ignore that at the moment. Hit next. Now you can name this, whatever custom thing you want it to be. I'm going to go with the default name here of the device as well as the API I'm currently working with it on. This will also give you one final chance to change the resolution of the device, what version you're using for the emulation, what version of the API you're working with, and then how you want this device to be dealt with on startup. Landscape, portrait, so forth and so on. You want it to auto scale or do a particular type of scaling based upon your particular monitor and resolution. Here we can emulate performance with graphics. We're going to set this to auto, where the emulator gets to decide, but then we have hardware and software. Let's keep going. Hit finish. It's saving our Android virtual device right now. Give it a few moments. And there we are. Here's our available emulators. Let's go ahead and hit OK. So this is requiring me, it looks like, to reboot my machine, which means I have to stop recording this video and start the entire process again. Something I was trying to not have happen. So I will be right back with everything back up and running, and we'll talk about the emulator after that. All right, class, so here we are back again after that restart to disable Hyper-V. So let's go ahead and hit run again. There is our emulator right where we left it last time. Go and hit OK. This is telling me that I need to install Intel Hexam, or Hexam. This is new for me. Since the last time I used Android, I didn't know this was something I required. So let's see if we can automatically do this. So let's hit cancel. Let's come up here and let's go to the SDK manager. Bringing this on up for us, we can see all the different SDKs. What I'm really interested in seeing is if under the tools, we can download this directly through this program. So there's the Intel x86 Emulator Accelerator Hexam installer. It says it's installed, but I don't think, let's see, the Android SDK location is right here. So let's go to that location. So that's our app directory. So let's open up Explorer. Come on down here to users. Let's see, C drive, users, me, app data, which is going to be a hidden folder, local, and SDK. Android and SDK. And within here should be this Intel x86 Hexam installer. There we are. Under SDK, extras, Intel, hardware accelerated execution manager. There's our Hexam. So let's go ahead and run this Intel Hexam Android.exe. Important for you to know before you do this, it says right here that the Intel Hexam requires an Intel processor with certain hardware features, including Intel virtualization technology. This installer will check to see whether or not you have it. My computer is custom built, and I built it, I'd say, close to 3-4 years ago. So there's a good chance I'm not going to have what's necessary. Let's see what it requires. It appears that it requires 2 gigs. Let's go with it. Install. So I'm going to assume that at this point it's going to check to see whether or not my processor even supports this technology. It looks like it's fine. Let's finish. Close this as well. Hit OK. And let's give this another shot. I'm probably going to have to do another system restart. Let's hit run. That great old build is currently running. So make sure you always are patient with Android Studio, especially the first time you're launching something. It can take a little bit of time. Here we are. So the emulator's launched up, but we do need to give it a few moments because just like a real phone or real device, I should say, whether it's a tablet or so forth, it actually will behave as you expect. So it's going to do the Android screen, it's going to launch everything up, and it will take a bit of time. All right, so here we are. Welcome. Wallpapers, widgets, and everything. Hit got it. Just ignore it. So here we are. Once again, be patient with the emulator, especially the first time you load it. Things can be a little slow, but this should operate just like a normal phone or a device. You'll notice we have a panel over here for doing things like powering it off, changing the volume up and down, rotating the device from side to side, taking a picture, and so forth. So let's go ahead and click Get Answer. Click it again, and you can see that every time we click, we get a different string. And I'm going to do this a lot because we want to make sure that we try out all the different kinds of text, and it appears to be working just fine. We're going to dive much deeper into the emulator in later videos. All we really want to do, though, is get it up and running and get the thing showing our app so we know if things are working properly. In the next video, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing, but instead with 2 different devices. We're going to work with my Samsung Galaxy S5 phone, and then we're also going to work with one of my tablets to see what we can do. And I might be able to scrounge together another couple devices. And the important thing we're going to see in the next video, regardless of what device we're launching our app on, it will function and it will change the size of the screen we're dealing with. Thanks everyone for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.